Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome into the Week 4 edition of the Sunday Sideline Report, part of the Sports Insanity Network. Good morning, ladies. I'm Mike Griffin, joined by Mark Goldovsky, Halpern, and Noah Tremblay. Gentlemen, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
All right. We'll talk a lot about the bigger games of the day in a little bit, but we start with what happened on Thursday night. Because we can get into the game in a few minutes because the Bengals did beat the Dolphins 27-50, but the bigger story was Tua Tagovailoa, who left the game on a stretcher after a sack, was diagnosed with a concussion. He did fly home with the team. I do want to make that point there. But now the NFLPA is investigating the circumstances of which Tua came back into the game last week against the Bills after he left with a concussion. 2 concussions in approximately 4 days. Now, the PA did fire the neurologist who cleared him. Now, it is an independent neurologist, not just the team doctor, who has to clear Tua for returning to the game last week against the Bills. And he, according to Dr. Alan Sills, the chief medical doctor for the NFL, said he had to pass concussion tests Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. But it's a really scary situation, Mark.
Just from the hit in Buffalo to, mind you, this wasn't really hit as more as he was really twisted and dragged and his head hit the ground. The right thing to do was to fire the neurologist who cleared him to come out back into the Buffalo game in the first place. He should not have been playing this week or been playing with at least that extra cover on top of the helmet for extra protection. But this is going to be the example Met said statement of the NFL firing the neurologist from the Dolphins team was the right move. He made way too many mistakes, and it's literally a list of stuff. This has to show that the NFL cares more about the players than it does the game. That's what they have to come out and say, is the players are the number one thing. So that's what I got on that.
Yeah, it's a terrible situation, and it was clear when you watch the Buffalo game, he should not have been in. Either he should not have been in the rest of the Buffalo game, and he should not have been in this game against the Bengals. He takes that hit, and you just see, of course, the terrible situation. He, seizes up, and it looks like his finger is snapped, but that's just because of the brain injury, and whoever cleared him to come into this game, should have easily been fired. I do though. I think there's also a responsibility on not only the coaching staff and the doctors to do that, but there's also a responsibility on him a little bit, on Tua himself, because look, dude, I understand that you want to play, and I understand you want to win for your team, but you're 3-0, and you should know about your health too. I get that the team doctors and the coaches are the ones who make the decision for you, but I think he shares a little bit, not a lot, but he shares a little bit of the responsibility as well, because he could have easily gone to McDaniel and been like, "Hey, I'm not okay. I need to sit this one out. I need to take 1 week and at least make sure I'm okay." Because I think at the very least, if he doesn't play this past Thursday, then he's taking, a solid week, not even a week, but
almost 2 weeks.
Almost 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks. He should have been fine by then. Concussion, most of the time it's 2.5 weeks, and you're good to go after. So it's just everyone involved. No one made the right call, and Tua is going to suffer for it.
But you brought up McDaniel, and I saw his press conference. I don't know if this was post game Thursday or if it was aired or if it was Friday post game, but he was visibly shaken by the whole situation. So I don't, and I can only take him at his word. I don't think he plays him if he knows. I don't think any coach plays him unless the doctors give them the go ahead. But he looked visibly shaken, whether it was Thursday or even Friday, that press conference. ESPN aired a bit of it, but he looked visibly shaken. Now, this is from Adam Schefter yesterday. The NFLPA and NFL soon are expected to agree to new protocols in which any time any player demonstrates any instability, he's not allowed to return to the game. The rule could go into effect as early as week 5. I don't know why that rule wasn't implied before.
The term instability, though, is a very broad term. A guy could have a injury that has nothing to do with the head and can show instability. I think they have to come out a little bit more and define the word instability for their, obviously woozy, dizzy looking. Obviously, it's the number one thing you're going to look for, or dead on the ground. I mean, I guess that's the other, but they have to come out and say what instability stands for, what it's going to mean.
Well, when Tua got hit last week, the Matt Milano hit, he got up, started walking, and then almost
kind of like Daniel Jones.
That's that's what I guess would determine instability. I'm not 100% sure. But this was a failure by everyone around the league. This was a failure. And the thing I find most ironic about the whole situation is I don't know if it was right before this or a little before this. They showed Roger Goodell in the stadium talking to Chris Collinsworth, who was probably telling him how much he likes everybody on both teams. But the concussion protocols, if they were not followed, it's a worse look for Roger Goodell, because you're the guy who implemented this along with the Players Association.
Mm-hmm.
You're the guy who's supposed to be pro-player safety. And this is not what player safety was meant to do. No one wants to see anybody out on a stretcher. That is the last thing anybody wants to see.
And of course, we've heard all the stuff about CTE, and we've seen what it does to players. And these are players who probably, obviously these are players back in the day who probably had multiple concussions and were still playing through games. And you can't do that here. I don't care what happens, what time of year it is. I don't care what time it is in the season. If somebody is like we said, if you see what happened to Tua on Sunday, he is out, and you are not. He is to be nowhere near a football field, at the very least, for at least until week 5, and that is the earliest he can come back.
And I wonder this part, and I'm Mike McDaniel. I wonder if he was more of a veteran coach. And I'm not even saying a Belichickian level veteran, but think of a guy, Sean McVay, even Kingsbury, as much as I don't love him. I wonder if they would have said, you know what? No, 4 days after this scary incident, we can't have you play. So you're going to take the week off. Maybe you could still travel with the team, but you're not going to play based on the circumstance.
I don't know how much of the blame McDaniel shares in this. I know he shares.
I'm not saying he's getting blamed. I'm not blaming him. I'm just wondering if more of a veteran coach would have had a better understanding.
What I mean by that is, we talked about it, because if McDaniel doesn't get the okay from the doctors,
he's not playing.
He's not playing. But if you've got let's just say you got both the team doctor and this independent neurologist saying he's good to go, I don't think you're going to have a second thought if two guys are both telling you. So but again, I don't know how much of a blame that shares on him, because even if I was in his shoes, obviously hindsight's 2020, I think I still would have been like, you know what? I don't feel comfortable with this. And I'm not saying he should have ignored the team doctors and all this stuff, but I just, how anyone looked at that Buffalo footage and thought, yeah, he's fine. Like,
the doctor needs to be no way connected to the team whatsoever. It needs to be an independent NFL doctor, I think, is what it has to do.
Which is what the neurologist was.
Right, but he has to have some connection to the team in some way. I do not believe that this guy might have only been third party. I think it has to be on
the
game
neurologist
day.
was supposed to work with the team doctor as a team.
Yeah. I think on game day, you get one neurologist for both teams from the NFL to cover both teams on that. Is how it has to be. This way there can be no bias.
See, it shouldn't even be connected to the NFL.
Okay.
It should be honestly, what it should be is, you've got all of these organizations out there. Like, I know there's the one led by the former wrestler, Mike Nowinski.
Chris Nowinski.
Have something like that where you can see like an outreach, like, okay, look, you hire the doctor, we have nothing to do with it as far as the NFL is concerned. We have nothing to do with it. That way, if, let's just say, for example, if this same situation happens, God forbid, or just that situation happens with Tua, then the NFL can look at the doctor and be like, look, you're independent from us. We listen to you, but you have no influence from us. That way, if the person makes a decision, that way it's a completely independent from the NFL. The guy is only going to care, whoever the doctor is going to only care about the player's safety. That way the NFL, there's no conflict of interest, because obviously if you have a doctor licensed by the NFL or, being paid by the NFL, there's going to be a conflict of interest there.
Mm-hmm.
So it should be a completely independent thing. Take whoever this doctor is, should be hired by a third party, and their only job is to say, okay, can this player play football whenever their next game is? And their only job is that.
The other question I have is, if I'm not saying it, because Tua suffered a concussion, shouldn't he have been kept in a hospital overnight for observation as opposed to flying with the team back to Miami, or am I off base?
You're not off base, but it depends on how severe the concussion was on Sunday, when they had to remove the face mask first because they had to keep his head still. If he only suffered a mild extra, yeah, he could have flown that night. But you're not wrong in saying, let's play it safe, keep him in the hospital overnight, fly him home the next day. But doctor said he was okay to fly. Doctors also said he okay to play. Hey, what do we all know?
Right, but I guess in this case, you're talking about an independent doctor. You're talking about a doctor from a hospital, because, obviously that's where he was brought to. So they must have determined that, because I do remember reading that, even just like about an hour after he was moving all of his extremities, he was conscious, he was aware of his surroundings, all that stuff. So I'm guessing the doctors did all their tests and they determined that he's obviously not okay to play, but he's good to fly home with the team and just get plenty of, obviously do your 24-hour stay up thing with the concussion, but after that, just get plenty of rest and you should be good to go. So,
according to Adam Schefter, the PA, I believe, and the NFL will interview Tua as part of their investigation into this, but it was a scary scene Thursday night.
Mhm. It was terrifying. I
Yeah.
remember seeing his hands because I remember
Seized up, yeah.
well, and yeah, and I first saw it when I first saw the videos because I wasn't watching the game live at the time. I thought, oh God, it looks like his finger just snapped. I'm like, oh, that sucks. And then it's like, oh no, that's his hand seizing up from the head hit. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Oh my God. So thank God he was moving his extremities, as soon as he got to the hospital, which is a very good sign. So, but I mean, at this point, Tua should not be playing for, at the very least, the next 3 weeks. I would put it at that.
Depending on how he's going, he's definitely not playing next week. I would think he's definitely not playing next week. So, but there was a game Thursday night outside of that, which saw the Bengals get back to 500 with a 27-15 win over the Dolphins. Joe Burrow, 20 of 31, 287, 2 touchdowns. Joe Mixon had a rushing touchdown. T. Higgins had a big game, 7 catches, $124 and a touchdown for the Bengals. For the Dolphins, Teddy Bridgewater came in, had 193 yards, a touchdown, and a pick. And Tyreek Hill had 160 yards receiving.
And they lost.
First loss of the year. But, Mark, I kind of brought this up when we talked about it Thursday night. This was the easiest game letdown you could have. Off 4 days off of a big win over the Bills, on the road, and then on top of all of those circumstances, what happened to Tua, and then you have to go back out there and play.
I guess you can categorize it as that. I think, it's a shame that Tua got knocked out. The Dolphins are a little banged up. This is a game the Dolphins could have won, provided certain other things don't happen.
Mm-hmm.
You have to give, obviously, Tyreek Hill his due for 10 for 160. Mozart and Chase Edmonds did well on the ground. But I think pretty much the game was kind of offset once Tua went down, even though Bridgewater came in and played well. I mean, 14-23, 193, 1-1. It just wasn't enough. I think this is a good loss, like you said. Let's move on to next week.
I think this was more of a statement from the Bengals because obviously they get off to the 0-2 start, giving up 13 sacks in the first 2 weeks. And, Mark, we saw it when they came to Dallas. I mean, Joe Burrow could not get comfortable in the pocket. He had either Micah or Lawrence or Armstrong in his face every single play. And that's why they lost. They could not get anything going. But over the last 2 weeks, we've seen a much big improvement with this offensive line for the Cincinnati Bengals, only giving up 1 sack last night to a pretty good Dolphins defense. As far as the first 3 weeks have gone, they've been really good, and the offensive line for the Cincinnati Bengals held up last night or Thursday night, and that's what they need to do. If that offensive line starts clicking and starts playing like that, watch out for Cincy.
And they start using Joe Mixon a little bit more.
Right. Well, they start taking that pressure off. And if Burrow has time in the pocket, watch out because he's good. He's decent under pressure. Like he's not going to make big mistakes under pressure. But when Joe Burrow has a clean pocket, that the guy is lights out.
Yeah. And he has his choice of who he wants, whether it's Higgins, Jamar Chase is still there, Tyler Boyd, Hayden Hurst made an impact in the game. Yeah. So they're loaded offensively. They have all the weapons in the world.
And they still have a decent defense. Everyone sleeps on their defense.
If they can generate from Hendrickson and Hubbard, the secondary outside of Eli Apple, the secondary is pretty good. Sorry, Eli Apple, I just will never believe in you. Sorry. They're a good team. They were in the Super Bowl for a reason. But I think the thing I look at this, the game as a whole, and I think the game changed at a couple of points, but from the Bengal perspective, they just got to get Joe Mixon going, because now all of a sudden you can't load 8-9 up on the box on Joe Mixon, but you also can't play one-on-one against these receivers because they're so good.
Yeah, you can't try one-on-one against Chase, Boyd, and Higgins because one of them will break open.
And I think for the first time, the first 4 games is where I could say the Dolphins actually missed Byron Jones. Where, you got to make your choice. Do you want Xavier Howard on T. Higgins, who's been burning you, or do you want him on Jamar Chase? And that was the problem. And Xavier Howard's given zero help, so that was a problem. And they had that defense had played 90 snaps on Sunday against Buffalo. There's no way that 2 days, 3 days off, they're well rested enough to get going.
Well, and I saw a tweet and stuff about this, and I totally agree with it. The NFL should just abolish Thursday night games. They really should. Just take that game. Hell, either do one of two things. You can either just throw it on Sunday, or do a Monday doubleheader every week. Do one game at like 7 Eastern, and then do one game at 8:30 Eastern.
Like they did week 2 with
they did week 2 with the Titans, Bills,
Bills, Vikings, Eagles.
And because like you said, Mike, 4 days is not long enough for anybody.
Think about this. You play 90 snaps on defense on Sunday. Argument's sake, Monday's an off day just for the sake of probably watching film. You're back at practice Tuesday, Wednesday.
Right.
You're not getting rest. It's that's the. I don't even think you have to abolish this. Advance it another day. Take Friday nights. Who's going to stop you on Friday nights?
Yeah.
Got to get down on Friday.
Yeah.
There's something, because Thursday is not enough, or you've got to do the schedule better to where, teams, have it where you only play Thursday night games when you're coming off your bye week or something. Mm-hmm. But yeah, Thursday night games are just not enough because, I mean, I couldn't imagine when I did football for 1 year and having a game on Thursday after we just had a game on Sunday. It's not enough.
No.
Yeah. All right. Both teams will get a little bit of extra rest before they have divisional matchups next week. The Dolphins will go to MetLife and play the Jets, while next Sunday night, the Bengals go to Baltimore to play the Ravens.
Oh, I'm so excited.
We got to go live for that. That's going to be a great game.
Yeah, it's going to be really fun.
It might be the second best game on Sunday next week. We got Texans-Jags next week. Let's roll.
Oh, yes.
Let's roll. But we do have a football game being played now in London where the Saints and the Vikings are playing. And the Saints just scored a touchdown. Andy Dalton to Chris Olave, 4 yards off of a Kirk Cousins interception. But we got a 7-7 game in London.
I should have known this game is in primetime.
Listen, I give the Saints credit. The Saints are playing without Jameis Winston, Alvin Kamara, and Michael Thomas are all not playing today for the Saints.
This is a good time for second and third tier guys to step up.
And Minnesota, that you need to take advantage of this. Minnesota scored on an Alexander Madison touchdown from Kirk Cousins. So I'll keep you updated there. On to today's slate and the rest of today's slate. But I still don't understand how this one's not in prime time. But you got the Bills going to Baltimore to play the Ravens. I believe both teams are at 2-1.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And you got two guys in Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. In Lamar Jackson's case, he's playing better, I think, than his MVP year. Right.
Lamar is on a whole nother level.
He is. And what's been the big criticism of him throughout his career? He can't throw the ball down the field.
That hasn't been my criticism of him.
That's
hey, look, that's been my number one complaint about him since day one. I'm not going to say it hasn't.
Well, I've had a different complaint about him since day one. Well, not day one, but I just need to see him do it in January because he has
about him since day one. But
I mean, you're not going to take away you're not going to take away the fact that this kid has probably the best talent in football. Call him Shohei Ohtani of football if you want to. The question is, yes, he's put up a lot of touchdowns, but none of them have been 60, 70-yard passes, which is fine. As I said, small ball wins football games and baseball games. But when it comes time to need that quarterback who can get you 80 yards in 13 seconds, is Lamar Jackson that guy?
Who knows?
So far, he's making the Ravens pony up more cash with every game he plays.
And as he should. It's his contract year. Everybody knows you go all out in your contract year, and then you got the first 2 years of that contract year the new contract to suck and then come back. Sorry, just honesty there.
Speaking from personal experience. But the other side, you have the Bills, who everyone, for the most part, picked to be, if not the Super Bowl champion, in the Super Bowl. And then, the first 2 weeks, they railroaded the Rams, and then
they demolished
the Titans.
That wasn't even that looked like a NFL team versus a semi-pro team.
Mm.
Yeah, that was brutal. But they're off their first loss last week. They lose to the Dolphins in a tight game where, you can point the finger at a lot of things that did go wrong, went wrong. It was hot. Special teams had some issues offensively. I said this on Wishbone when we recorded. I don't remember the days of the week because it's Sunday. I thought a big factor in Josh Allen's play, even though he was good, was I thought the Dolphins got in his head a little bit with the all-out pressures because he didn't know who was coming, when it was coming, and where it was coming from. So he short-armed a lot of throws. He missed some open guys.
It's the true constant, I think, in the NFL. No quarterback is going to do well when they have constant pressure. Even Tom Brady. You get pressure on Brady, he's going to start faltering. Even the greats, like all of them, very few of them stay cool under pressure. I mean, looking through history, the only one that really did well under pressure was the legend Dan Marino. Mm-hmm. He was the only one that really could stand up pressure, but the way he did that was he would have all these short throws ready and he could just deliver the ball. But yeah, if a quarterback's got constant pressure right in his face, like Josh Allen did, no quarterback's going to really do well with that. I have seen Tom Brady throw 5 picks in a game or 4 picks in a game when KC got pressure on him. That's how you get to these legends. But yeah, that with the Bills, we talked about this on Wishbone. There's just always that. There will always be that one game a year or 2 games a year that just nothing goes your way. Every tip ball goes against you. Every single, slip of the hand goes against you and you fumble the ball. Every single, lucky catch goes to the other team. And that's just how it was on last Sunday for the Bills. Nothing went their way. Even when they had the game handed to them with the butt punt and all that, that legendary thing it's crazy that if the Dolphins lose because of that thing is in NFL lore, but now no one will remember it.
It's fumble 2.0.
Right. But now no one will remember it because the Dolphins ended up winning.
Right.
They ended up accounting for the mistake. But yeah, for the Bills, again, there's always those games that just nothing goes your way. It's like last year. Remember, they went to Jacksonville and they lost 9-6. Like, nothing went right. Nothing could go right. Every drop pass was on them. Every single great catch was on Miami. Every single slip was theirs. And every single time Miami stayed in balance, it's all that kind of stuff. There's going to be those games every year. No team's going to. I really believe now, after the Patriots 2007 run at it, I don't think we'll ever see a team go 17-0 again. I really don't think.
I'm with you. I don't think we'll see it either.
I really don't think. I think the NFL's too competitive to have that. I don't think we'll ever see it again.
I mean, the closest was the Patriots against the Giants in that Super Bowl.
Right.
The last team to ever come close.
The last team to ever come close, and but again, last week, not only did the Bills have a tough loss against the Dolphins, look at the Chiefs. Chiefs go into Indy and lose? What?
Exactly. It's another good point.
Sometimes it's just not your week.
Month or year.
I mean, we could talk more about the Chiefs in a little bit because they're going to be on Sunday night in a game where I think a lot of people know who they're playing. But
I do not know how they're in Tampa right now, but that's my thing.
That's a whole nother conversation.
When they made the change to Minneapolis, that made sense. But just because the storm tracked off doesn't mean you're going to be able to get enough fans there to even attend it.
Yeah, because, obviously, I watched Hurricane Ian the whole time, and it was catastrophic levels. So I do not know how they're in Tampa right now. Tampa itself got it close to 8, 9, 10 inches of rain.
Mm-hmm.
And the storm surge flooding was around 10 to 12 feet. It's not good. I don't know how they're doing it right now.
That's the Sunday night. I don't know who put in the effort to say, hey, no, don't move the game, because who's going to be there? How many people are realistically going to be able to drive to Tampa?
Here's the thing, and the NFL would never do this because they're greedy, whatever. But if you really wanted to show you cared about fans, you would offer either really, really discounted tickets or just free. Anyone who's welcome to come in.
No, I get that, and that's totally fair. I'm saying, like I've seen photos of roads and stuff in Florida. Like, who's driving to there now?
Right.
Let's say they move the game to Minneapolis. The ticket sales will still go to Tampa. The money still goes into Tampa, and
it's just being played on a neutral site.
Or you could move it to Minneapolis and say, hey, this is one giant fundraiser. Come watch the game, pay for your tickets, and all the money goes to Ian relief.
There you go. It's a way to do it.
That would have been simple enough, but that'll be Sunday night. Chiefs, Bucks, Sunday Night Football. But we'll talk more about that in a minute. But no, you brought up a team who got a win over the Chiefs last week. The Indianapolis 500 Colts, who are legitimately 500 after 3 weeks, which is I thought impossible, but they're 1-1-1.
And talk about legitimately the hardest team to understand right now in the NFL.
And they'll take on another team who's hard to understand. They play the Titans.
Yeah, it's
the battle of the running game.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, as far as the Colts go, I don't know what to make of them. One week they look great. The next week they look terrible. The next week they look even worse. Yeah, I don't even know. I don't even know what to say.
When we all saw Matty Ice go to Indianapolis, we were, eyes open. Hey, they got a quarterback there. Now with this, it has been a completely different Indianapolis Colts team from last year to this year through the first 3 games. There is no question there. The only constant is Jonathan Taylor, and not JTT that all the little girls love. Jonathan Taylor himself. He's it's going to be weighed very heavy on today. And if I'm the Titans, and even if I'm the Colts, I'm playing up. I'm stacking the box. Make them throw the ball. I think if that's the case, the winner would be Indianapolis, because you have to give the props to Matt Ryan as being the better quarterback.
See, I would say that, Mark, but Mike and I talked about this. Who does Matty Ice have to throw the ball to?
Well, there's the other. I mean, I don't know what happened to T.Y. Hilton. I mean, I guess I missed out on injury.
He's a free agent still.
He's still a free agent. No one signed him.
So that's hence why I missed out.
So you've got Michael Pittman and then a bunch of scrubs.
The guy with a Q. Q something, whatever. It doesn't matter. That's the biggest. Yes. That's why I thought the moment Matt Ryan goes to the Colts, hey, look who's going to show up with him, Julio Jones. I don't know why Indianapolis.
I thought that made so much.
Why Indianapolis didn't make a run on that. They had reasons, whatever. It doesn't matter. But right. Who does Matt Ryan have to throw to? Nobody. But you can't make that excuse. I mean, there are other teams that are throwing to nobodies also. And he is.
But do those teams have Super Bowl aspirations?
Not all of them, no.
Right. So, I mean, you could have taken on Amari Cooper for a 4th-round pick.
Yeah.
And there's another very good point. There were chances for them to improve without giving up a lot. Like Mike just said, Dallas was offering Cooper. Go grab him out of Dallas. Give someone Matt Ryan would be comfortable throwing to.
Devontae Adams would have cost you 2 firsts.
See, that I would have seen being a waste if he went there. I just see that being waste.
That's just my point. If you think you're a Super Bowl team,
you got to pony up
that move.
You got to pony up Super Bowl money, and that's not. I mean, it looked like that's what Indianapolis was gearing up to do, but just never did.
Yeah, the offensive line hasn't played great. I could say Matt Ryan hasn't been what I've wanted, but
Matt Ryan is playing like the second. Matt Ryan's playing like the second half of the Super Bowl. That's how I see him playing, shaken and bruised. Not the cool, calm person we all come to know. Sorry, Mike, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, it's okay. But this team, I thought once they got Matt Ryan, I said, okay, you go sign Julio. You know what? I'll throw it out there now. Go sign Odell Beckham. Go do it. I don't care when he's ready. Sign him for 2 years. I don't care.
Or draft somebody.
Here's the thing on the draft, because you could draft great, and they usually do. They drafted Alec Pierce this year, who hasn't made an impact yet, but this team can't rely on look at the teams in the AFC for a second. The Bills go and get Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs. They're legitimate Super Bowl contenders. The Dolphins go get Tyreek Hill for Tua. I'm not calling them a Super Bowl contender, but they're a playoff team. The Raiders go get Derek Carr, Devontae Adams. They're a whole nother mess. We could talk about them in a minute, in a little bit. But if you expect to win, but by the way, the team you're playing had AJ Brown and they traded him. Not saying you could have gotten AJ Brown because they're not going to make that deal within the division, but that's just something we're going to.
Right.
It's a different concept. I mean, you could not going to say you can't do, but you could have paid Christian Kirk all the money. You could have traded for Hollywood Brown. You could have done so many different things. That's where I'm at on the Colts. Now, the flip side of it with the Titans, I mean, I know they beat the Raiders last week by 2. I'm still not a believer in the Titans. I can't get the loss out of the Giants out of my head, and I can't get the Bills beat down out of my head.
Yeah, the Titans are not going anywhere this year.
They are not mighty by any least.
Yeah. Denzel Washington couldn't even get them to remember the Titans.
No.
How the heck that they got 13-4 or 13-3 last year is beyond me.
Well, I mean, they had guys. AJ Brown was a dude. Derrick Henry.
Last I checked, he still was a dude.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, he was the big time guy, Brown and Henry.
And you still had guys like Harold Landry making plays on defense.
And he's done. He's out for the year. He tore his ACL. But they need someone on defense to make an impact. And at some point, they're going to need Ryan Tannehill to start making more plays.
And at this point, I'm out of Tannehill making plays.
Well, but again, I'm not even defending the guy. But when you trade AJ Brown for the guy who draft analysts said he reminds me the most of AJ Brown, but why wouldn't you just pay AJ Brown? Doesn't make sense to me. It still doesn't. I still don't understand where we're at on the Titans. And by the way, both teams are looking up at the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Well, who we expected to be better this year.
Who are going into Philly for a Doug Peterson revenge game today.
Which, honestly, game of the week.
Gonna be a fun game.
Yeah, I mean, the Jags, they went into LA last week and they punched the Chargers in the mouth.
Well, more like they punched Herbert's ribs. Talk about another guy who should not have been playing.
He should not have been playing.
Brandon Staley, what are you doing? You're leaving him in such a blowout game.
I mean, he should not have been playing from the start.
Correct. With those rib injuries, forget it.
Yeah, no way.
He's playing again today.
Very stupid. Now, mind you, Noah and I have been through this with the likes of Tony Romo and the famous punctured lung to the next 3 weeks getting pain-killing injections. We've been through this. It doesn't work. Sit your player.
Mm-hmm.
And especially if you're the Chargers, because, I mean, the last time you tried to inject someone, you stabbed Tyrod Taylor to the point he's suing the team doctor.
Right. Well, this is why, backup quarterback is such an important position, because any little thing could happen. You might have to throw the guy in. Look at the Saints this week. They have to throw Andy Dalton in.
Well, but that's a great point. Like, you need a backup quarterback you could trust. Andy Dalton, Teddy Bridgewater. Those are the top tier guys.
Those are the guys that you could put in right now and they can play.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but back to the Jags and the Eagles, because I do want to talk about this.
Yeah.
Trevor Lawrence has played so well early on.
He sure has.
A different cat.
Well, he doesn't have the worst coach in NFL history on his sideline anymore.
That's true. He was on the Fox. He's on the Fox pregame show Saturdays.
He's on the bump and grind, they call it.
Yeah, ruining that. Ruining that.
They have their own segment, the Urban Grind.
Yeah, but no, I mean, under Doug Peterson, Lawrence looks like a whole new quarterback. He looks like the guy we all expected him to be.
Yes.
And, hey, we criticized it, and I know it was a lot of money, but hey, when you're a team like Jacksonville and you're not a high up end free agent target, sometimes you have to flash the cash to a guy who might not warrant it. Like they did with Christian Kirk. They might have to say, hey, look, you could go to a Super Bowl contender team, or you could come here and make $21 million a year. But give props to Christian Kirk. He's on pace to get 1,300 yards and like 12 touchdowns this year.
And I know I have said this before on Christian Kirk's contract. If you actually read it, it's probably one of the most brilliant pieces of nonfiction I've ever read. Christian Kirk signed for the number he signed for, but he is signed for this year $1 million to start at wide receiver. Next year is where it gets jacked to, I think, just about a little over 20. And then he can become a free agent on his own accord if he wants to. Or the team can release him if they want to and not cost the team any penalty. So Christian Kirk signs this 4-year, $80 million deal. We'll be lucky to see $20 million out of it after 2 years. He's going to be released, and it's not going to get that far. I thought it was the dumbest idea in the beginning until I read the contract, and you're getting a serviceable wide receiver for dimes on the dollar.
Yeah, and they're just Evan Ingram's made an impact defensively. They're playing okay. James Robinson's healthy, which I think is the best thing for them.
Well, and I love that they've actually used him and not like, because I was really worried that they were just going to strong arm Robinson out and try to get ETN going. But no, go with the hot hand. Go with Robinson. 2 straight years of 1,000 yards rushing. Go with him. He's your workhorse right now. I hate when teams do this. I hate when teams ignore the hot hand. Like if I had a guy who was rushing for nearly 1,000 yards every single year, I'd be like, he's my guy. I don't need to fix it.
Again, another kind of Urban Meyer special. Like because we got Lawrence, we'll get your buddy ETN and go from there. And ETN's been pretty good in the passing game. No one's gonna deny that, but they're just playing. They're playing with more confidence. They're just playing better. It's good to see. Flip side, we talked about how well Lamar's playing. Jalen Hurts. Oh,
I said this, Mike. You remember this? I said this before week 1. Dark horse MVP candidate is Jalen Hurts.
Yeah.
And this kid looks like an MVP candidate. Getting him AJ Brown, him and AJ Brown already have a bond, I think, stronger than most quarterback and receivers. Having AJ Brown has really
Smith is doing. Ooh.
It's opened up Devontae Smith on the outside. The running game's still great. The defense is on a whole other level right now.
I'm making this plea now. Someone make Jonathan Gannon a head coach next year. The Eagles defensive court. I mean, what he did against the Vikings in week 2, that was clinical.
Well, that was more of Cousins just can't perform in primetime.
No, but think about it, though. What impact did Justin Jefferson have on the game? None. And you take away Justin Jefferson, you take away a lot of what Minnesota wants to do. They have two really good corners in Darius Slay and James Bradbury. They can get to the passer now. They brought in Hassan Reddick. They're legitimately a threat in the NFC.
When we talked about this on Wishbone Shotgun, I think Mark would agree. I really think who wins the NFC East comes down to one matchup: the Cowboy offense versus the Eagles defense. Who wins that war in the trenches?
Well, here's the breakdown to that. Right now, if you're comparing team, are we using the depth chart as it is now, or are we going to use it when they play in a few weeks?
I meant when Dak comes back.
Okay, so at the first line, I I'm just not going to take away that Jalen Hurts isn't playing good. He really is. And the bias for me is going to play a little bit here. I honestly don't know that the Eagles have played a defense as well put together as Dallas yet. There's nothing to take away with what Philadelphia has done as a team. They're 3-0 for a reason. They're doing very well. Everyone knows when you play your own division, it's a different ball game. And I think here, in Noah's question, I think the Dallas offense is going to be way too much for the Dallas defense. But I think the Dallas secondary is going to get its biggest test in the entire season against this Eagles offense.
So
100%.
So Philly's beaten Detroit, Minnesota, and Washington so far.
Whose combined record right now would be
Minnesota's 2-1 or 1-2?
2-1.
2-1. Detroit's 1-2. Washington's 1-2.
So 4-6 or 4-5.
Yeah, but you know, Washington, I think, is a dumpster fire. I don't need to say that anymore. Detroit's on the up and coming, and I don't think Minnesota's that bad. You know, I think what Philly's doing, though, you can't fault them for who they're playing. But I think more interesting, you know, you guys bring up if Dak's there. I'm more inclined because of the whole no Tyron Smith. How do they match up front? Because that's where the Eagles are getting the people, is up front. And that's where I think the Eagles are really on it. I think the Eagle defense has played better than expected, and it's on a whole nother level. Update in London, the Vikings are up 13-7 at halftime.
Mm-hmm.
And before Mark, you ask, it's 2 field goals, nothing. Dalvin Cook. I'm with you. I second that. That's fair.
Well, don't worry, Mark. You didn't leave someone in who's out this week.
Wait,
no, that I didn't.
Did you leave it Michael Thomas or Kamara?
I left in Michael Thomas. And I was like, and I woke up this morning and I'm like, oh, okay, I'll fix it right before kickoff. And I'm like, oh crap, it's London. They're already playing. Dang it.
Couldn't happen. All right. 2 other games we'll get to, because Rams-Niners Monday night, we don't really have to get into that. But we got the Broncos and we got the Raiders.
Oh, God.
The Broncos being the most surprised team for sucking.
I
mean, I really don't want to say that because I was really excited to see this Broncos team this year. But I don't know if you want to call it Russell Wilson's overzealousness, or you want to call it that the offensive plan is not up for what he is used to. I don't think I've ever seen him perform this lousy. When he was injured, he did better.
I think he shares some of the blame here, but I'm with our co-host on Wishbone, Adam. Nathaniel Hackett might honestly be the worst coach in NFL history. The dude, he has taken this team and Russell Wilson, and he makes them look like a college team in Division IV. I mean, I don't understand. His time management is some of the worst I've ever seen. I thought it couldn't get any worse with Mike McCarthy in Dallas, but this guy, oh my God, I could not imagine being a fan of the Denver Broncos and watch them have, 2 minutes left in the game against Seattle, and they take like a minute and 40 seconds to go 25 yards, and then it's 4th down and 3. And like Shannon Sharp said on Undisputed, you paid this guy $250 million to trust him in these situations, but no, you're gonna risk a 64-yard field goal. What are you doing? By
the way, he didn't burn his timeouts. The field goal's missed, and then when Seattle takes a knee, that's when I'll use my timeouts.
Like his ability to coach is like, he looks like a kid who tried to play Madden for one day and then they hired his head coach.
And by the way, their 2 wins. One's against an incompetent Houston team that's looking, I think, to tank.
Yeah.
Well,
And the other one, if Jimmy Garoppolo knows where he's at on the field and doesn't step out of the end zone,
they lose.
Dan Orlovsky, his comment on Twitter.
I love Dan.
I'm free.
I'm
Dan
free.
Orlovsky's the man. He
But
really
yeah,
is. He's so good.
I obviously Russell Wilson shares a bunch of this blame, but I'm looking at Nathaniel Hackett because I'm sorry, this is his time management, his play calling. It's some of the worst I have ever seen. I mean, you could not have asked for a worse debut than that debut. I mean, how do you not say, hey, Russell Wilson, go earn your $250 million contract. It's 4th down and 3, get us the first down. I mean, you've got Jerry Jeudy, you got Cortland Sutton, you've got Javonte
Gordon and
Williams.
Javonte Williams.
I mean,
got KJ Hamler.
How is this offense scoring like 12 points a game?
They are 1 of 7 in the red zone.
Yeah.
And
Scoring
that's
touchdowns.
ridiculous.
That's insane.
That's inexcusable.
That really is. And I mean,
By
if
the
the
way, if the
Broncos-
defense wasn't playing well, they might be 0-3.
if here's the thing, if the Broncos start to falter, Nathaniel Hackett 1 and done. And I seriously will never I would never touch him with a 10-foot pole again for a head coaching position.
And then you go get the guy I think who would be a perfect fit there. Sean Payton.
No, Sean Payton's going to be in Dallas after they fire McCarthy.
No, I don't know what you people are smoking. It's Dan Quinn's job to lose.
Dan Quinn doesn't want to be the head coach. He
Dude,
wants
Dan-
to control defense. That's all he's asked for.
Listen, you could say what he wants. Dan Quinn really wants to do the one thing everyone with the initials DQ does. Wants to run a Dairy Queen.
But I mean, Sean Payton in Denver would be one hell of an upgrade, that's for sure.
I mean, I'm starting to think Vern Troyer would have been an upgrade.
Yeah, but it's just, and I bought into the hype because I thought, oh my God, Russell Wilson, Javonte Williams, Melvin Gordon, Cortland Sutton, and Jerry Jeudy. Cortland Sutton's the best. Like right now, he is one of the best deep ball receivers in the NFL. Oh, and they just so happen to go get the best deep ball thrower in the NFL in Russell Wilson. How does Cortland Sutton not have 800 yards already? Or Jeudy. Like, how? You have the best deep ball thrower in the NFL, and you've got one of the best deep ball threats in the NFL in Cortland Sutton. His success rate on passes more than 25 yards is like insane.
Mm-hmm.
How? Yeah. How is this offense not exploding, Nathaniel Hackett? How? What are you doing to this team?
John Elway needs to figure this out quickly.
John Elway's got to lay off the beers, lose the gut, and turn over control to someone who gives a shit.
So, not John Elway. Mm. Well, and then flip side, you got the Raiders.
Again,
talk about massive disappointments.
Talk about another team that I am just squarely looking at the head coach, and you know what, McDaniels, you're done.
You are because after they lost last week, he had a closed door meeting with Mark Davis. Apparently,
I am done giving Josh McDaniels head coaching jobs. I'm done with giving any Bill Belichick coaches head coaching jobs because all of them have failed.
Just wait till his Joe Dirt looking kid becomes the head coach in New England.
And even Brian Flores, for how decent he did, even he got fired. And
there's circumstances
involved with that, but how again, you've got a guy who, given Devontae Adams, Derek Carr should be a top 5 quarterback in the NFL right now. He has the talent. I have seen it. I have watched Derek Carr from day one in his NFL career. He is a top 5 level talent. I will say this and I will mean that. And
I'd hope you mean it if you're backing it like this.
Yes. And when they traded for Devontae Adams, I put the stamp on it. I said, they are a Super Bowl contender.
They should be.
They should be a Super Bowl contender. Derek Carr should be an MVP candidate. Josh McDaniels, what the have you done to this team? Derek Carr cannot find anyone open. Devontae Adams looks like a shell of his former self. Josh Jacobs, Darren Waller, Hunter Renfrow, Devontae Adams.
Hunter Renfro's been injured the last 2 weeks.
True. But even then, how is his offense not scoring 80 points a game?
With all the other weapons they have, exactly.
How are you not? And the defense. Max Crosby, Chandler Jones, how do they not each have 5 sacks yet?
They have 2 sacks in 3 games.
2 sacks? How?
Not
How?
those 2. The Raider defense as a whole is 2 sacks in 3 games.
I don't.
I mean, Josh Jacobs, even when he was drafted, I didn't like him in Las Vegas. Doesn't matter. He's there. Make more time for him. Make more plays schemed around him. Darren Waller, probably the next best tight end to Mark Andrews in the league, is on career lows right now. It doesn't make sense how LA is just as bad. LV, sorry.
This just we talked about this right before the season started, Mark, on our Wishbone Shotgun. And I said this. I said, people think the quarterback position is the most important position in the NFL. Nope. It's the head coach.
Oh, I don't disagree with you there at all.
Because a head coach can take a great team and make them suck.
Absolutely.
And yet a great head coach can take an average team and make them great.
Very true. I hate to say it like this. Just who wants it more is who gets it done.
Yeah. It's so true. And you look at McDaniels and Hackett, and it's like you've got one who is just incompetent, who might have a good attitude, and then the other one has a terrible attitude and just might be even more incompetent.
The one difference I'll say, though, is this is Hackett's first time as a head coach. It's not McDaniels, because he was not a good head coach in Denver. But the other thing I'll say is this. Denver's roster is better than the Raiders' roster.
Fair enough.
Denver was a competing team last year. The Raiders, they went out and they made their splashes this offseason of Adams and Chandler Jones. At some point, someone not named Devontae Adams on that offense has to step up. And just anyone on that defense has to step up. The corners stink. I mean, that's a position of issue there.
I mean, they got a great name, but he doesn't play well.
Rock you sin is rock you suck. I mean, Jesus.
He can go rock the Casbah.
Oh, shout out the Clash. They don't cover well. They don't. Last week they couldn't stop Derrick Henry. I mean, that was that.
But neither can most teams.
No, and I get that. That's fair. That's fine. But at some point, they just got to figure this thing out. Otherwise, this gamble didn't pay off in Vegas. All right. And then we got Sunday night. We mentioned Chiefs-Bucks earlier.
Not as an exciting game as it could be.
The Bucks offense has not been good to start the year.
Bucks don't have an offense, really. Their wide receivers are either suspended or injured.
I really back tonight, and they're hoping Godwin and Julio play.
I really think I really think we're seeing it now. I really think we're starting to see Father Time catch up with Brady. He has not looked comfortable.
Should have just stayed retired.
He should have just stayed retired.
I know they're 2-1, I believe they are. Yeah, they lost to the Packers last week. But if they don't get the pick six against the Saints, they could have lost that game. They weren't impressive against the Cowboys. The defense was, but
yeah.
I mean, he you know who he looks like, Tom Brady, right? He looks like Peyton's last year. It doesn't look great.
Adam made a good comparison too. He almost looks like Phillip Rivers that last year in San Diego or Los Angeles.
Did Rivers play in LA?
Well, the Chargers.
No. I know. I'm trying to figure that out for me.
Oh,
Yeah, they would have been. They would have definitely been in LA
Yeah.
by that time. I think they moved in like 2017.
I don't remember when they moved. There's not many Chargers fans out there.
Hold on, let me check.
Charger fans will be sad to note while Noah's looking that up that Joey Bosa is now out 8 to 10 weeks.
Yeah, groin surgery.
Yep. I've already been
It just sounds
snipped once.
really.
I don't want anybody with a knife down there anymore.
Just sounds painful.
They moved in 2017.
Okay.
So he would have played.
He would have played at least 1 year there. Okay. All right. So we also have Rams Niners tomorrow night. That should be somewhat fun.
Well, as long as Jimmy G doesn't think he can go around the goalpost, he'll be fine.
I gotta tell you, I think the Niners win that game.
I picked them too.
Yeah,
I think I had him picked as well.
I mean,
they always beat. They beat the Rams. They just didn't do it in the NFC title.
They always know how to beat the Rams. I think another thing too. People were freaking out over Jimmy G's performance on Sunday night. I mean, look, the guy hasn't played in 8 months. So
and really hadn't practiced because he thought he was going to get traded.
This is his first time just being thrown back into the system, and I know he knows it, but I mean, this is his first time playing in months. Give him a chance to get warmed up.
It was a physical error running out of the back of the end zone. The only problem with it is poor Dan Orlovsky is never going to let him live it down.
No, because now
Orlovsky's the man. I'm talking up Orlovsky like we should try to get him on the podcast.
My God, imagine that.
Yeah. All right. On to some rapid fire stuff. Lamar and Josh Allen play today. We mentioned earlier. Two parts. One, what's the number you pay Lamar Jackson? And two, who would you rather want long term?
Okay.
In this case, I want Lamar Jackson long term, and I'm paying Jackson over Allen. Reason why is because I think Lamar Jackson, if he can just be teach to throw the ball a little longer, which is not hard to teach a quarterback to do, I think he becomes more serviceable than Allen.
Okay, I have to stop rapid fire because I saw something on Twitter just now.
Oh wow, lucky guy, Noah.
And it's making me laugh and cringe at the same time.
What is it?
So I don't know if everyone knows the story, so I'll bring it up. Antonio Brown the other night.
Yeah, go ahead.
Apparently exposed himself in a hotel pool.
Oh God.
Yeah. So Mike, before you get started, sorry. This is our expose on the exposed. There you go, Mike.
So
Antonio Brown on Twitter, I'm telling every team that needs some offense to pick up AB because he's shown that he still has the ability to expose a D.
Oh my. Okay. NFL, if you want,
this was done in Dubai, by the way. Wasn't done in America.
If you want a case where you can show you're in good faith, get Antonio Brown the help he needs.
Yeah,
because he's clearly not okay.
We are going to have an international incident.
I had to share that. I mean, I can't. Nobody's going to sign this dude.
He needs mental help at the moment.
Yes.
Really does.
And we don't take that lightly. We don't take that lightly.
No, and I'm not saying I don't take it lightly, but he really needs help because this is clearly not something a sane person does.
No.
And but anyway, back to the question at hand. Okay, if I have to pay Lamar, okay. So obviously the number, I think the cap number right now is obviously $50 million because no one's getting paid more than Mahomes. No one's going to get paid more than him. I would pay Lamar long term at 43. I think he's just a bit better than Dak. Maybe not Josh Allen level, but I think he's right
Well,
between there.
I'll say this on Allen: the Bills got a steal and they paid him.
Right. So I would think Lamar at 43 million is fair for what he does. But I'm going to go opposite Mark here. I'm going to take Josh Allen because I truly think Josh Allen is a once in a generation talent. The guy has incredible accuracy. He's got a great deep ball. He's got great short arms. He's got great over the middle, got great on the sidelines. He can move as well, not like Lamar Jackson, but that's another thing too. Lamar's going to get way prone to injury because he's going to run way more often. Josh Allen's a big guy, no injury concerns whatsoever. Yeah, I think Josh Allen is like a Mahomes where he's a once in a generation type talent. I'm definitely going Josh Allen right now.
Okay. I'd pay Lamar probably around 43 to 45. I think I'd go there. I think that's a fair estimate. I'd probably take Allen long term too. I just am fearful of his running ability as well, because he likes to do it so much. I know he's so big, but I can't get the Dak injury out of my head when it comes to him. All right.
Why don't you see that when you see Lamar?
Because Lamar, I see more as like a Mike Vick. Like, he knows when to slide. He knows when to get out of bounds. Like, Josh Allen takes that extra hit for no reason to me.
Okay.
That's my biggest thing. And Lamar, he knows when he can get out. He can slide.
Well, I think the problem with the Dak type of thing is that those are freak injuries. That can happen on a simple scramble.
I know, but I kind of see Dak and Josh Allen they're both thicker than Lamar kind of is. That's kind of where I get it. Lamar's not as thick as they are.
Right. Okay.
All right. So I'm going to just combine the last two. Biggest surprise and disappointment so far. It could be a player, could be a team.
Biggest surprise, Saquon Barkley. 401 yards, leading the league in rushing, definitely showing that he's back to his old self, will not be a New York Giant next year. Sorry, Bill. Biggest letdown of this year? Let's say the entire Las Vegas Raiders team is the biggest letdown.
Biggest letdown for me has got to be this is tough. Biggest letdown, I'm honestly gonna go with the Patriots.
Ooh.
Okay.
I know no one really expected much from them. Well, not really the Patriots, maybe, but Mac Jones. Mac Jones has looked terrible. And I mean, he doesn't have much help, but they got him Devontae Parker. They still have some decent running backs. And Mac Jones has looked really bad. Like nowhere near what he was last year.
Not to bitter it up, injured now with a high ankle sprain and is going to miss 4 to 6 weeks.
Yeah,
Brian Hoyer starts today in Green Bay.
I really disappointed in Mac Jones. I thought he was going to be serviceable. I thought he was going to be pretty good. And he looked, before his injury, he looked really rough. Biggest surprise. A lot of good options for this. But I'm gonna go. You know what? I'm gonna go the Cowboy defense because I thought, because here's the thing. I knew the Cowboy defense would be decent, but I did not expect them to be this good, so to speak. I did not, because here was the thing. I don't know about you, Mark, but I was kind of coming into the season. I was almost done with DeMarcus Lawrence because I was like, dude, why can't you match what even come close to what you did a couple of years ago? Trayvon was fine, but I had questions about the secondary cornerbacks. I had questions about the other linebackers other than Micah. But this defensive unit has really come around. Dante Fowler looks like a new man. Leighton Vander Esch looks brand new. Anthony Barr's playing really well. Micah is obviously ascended to a different level at this point. DeMarcus Lawrence, after Monday, looks back to his old self. Dorrance Armstrong has a couple sacks. Leighton Vander Esch has a sack. Like I said, I expected a decent from this defense, but I did not expect like top 5 in the league.
I was geared up with our defense going into the season after what they did last year between the secondary, obviously Micah. But I didn't expect them as high as they were. I agree with Noah there. I expected them to be a top 10. The offense, I expected to be a lot better before training camp. And then as we got into training camp, watching the injuries pile up yet again, I thought we were in trouble. You got to give it where credit's deserved. And Cooper Rush, a very big surprise, winning the last 2 games. One of them hard, one of them he should have won.
And for me, the biggest surprise, I'm going to just say the Jags at 2-1, and the way they went into LA, they beat down the Chargers, they beat down the Colts, and they were competitive against the Commanders. So I'm going to go the Jags as the biggest surprise. Biggest disappointment, Noah probably knows where I'm going here. I hate the Arizona Cardinals. I straight up, in Arizona, I know you're only 1-2. Call me when you beat a good team. And I don't want to hear you're competitive at times. Beat a real team, because you gave Clifford the big red bird an extension and Kyler, who can't study, an extension.
Mm-hmm.
Call me when you beat a real team. So when you beat Carolina today, I don't want to hear it.
I don't think they're beating Carolina today.
You're saying Baker's going to do good?
Decision, so
he's done fine.
Yeah. He's not done well enough.
I'm like Mike, though. I am done with Arizona.
Thank you. I'd rather go watch a cactus than watch the Cardinals play.
I mean, last year, just real quick, last year was such an anomaly with them. 11-0 to start, and then they just they took the biggest nosedive you could ever have taken.
They took a bigger nosedive than Antonio Brown in that pool.
Well, and that playoff game against the Rams, my God.
Well, and the reward, Kingsbury and Kyler get extensions. I don't get it.
How does that game warrant extensions?
I don't get it. I don't get it. My war against the state of Arizona will wage on for another week. But for more content like this, you can follow the network. Go to the website, www.thesportsinsanitynetwork.com, for blogs, vlogs, planes, trains, and automobiles. Podcasts are out, Anchor, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Check us out, Facebook, Twitter, good stuff. But for Noah Tremblay and Mark Goldupsky Halpern, I'm Mike Rifkin. Thank you for tuning in to the SIN Sunday Sideline Report. Enjoy the day of